Right, so we must be doing something right. 111, July 1, 2022. David Manning's in the house. Having tech issues, which means we're going to have a great show, which we always have a great show with David Manning. Here, I'll tag you on it. And this
Thank
way I
you.
can check and see if it's on. So, yeah, this should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
You think?
How's Sedona?
Uh, well, I just talked to my friend who was sleeping on the land in a tent. I had something occur to me. I don't even know. I guess man, I don't know what time it was. But I stayed with it, and sat with my own process from like 2 in the morning till maybe 4 in the morning. And very much the land was a part of it.
Yeah.
And as I was getting the download, which was in a nutshell, you think you're small. As I'm looking at the mountains and the night sky, in life, you're not small. Do you know how big you are? And I'm like, actually, I fucking do. And then not cocky, but just like, you know what, you're right. How many
Yeah, yeah,
times do I need to hear this?
yeah.
And I owned it. And as soon as I did, all these like rainbow lightning started shooting out like in a circle, like almost like a firework, right? Right in front of me with this really soft purples and blues and pinks and then the thunder. So it was a wider experience because of the impact of nature
Yeah.
and the physical aspect of and all that carries. Now at the same time, my friend is in his tent. He was called here too. He bought a one-way ticket. He's a street musician. Been had a very full life. Great guy. We performed with him a couple nights ago. Last 3 nights. He gets the storm. It starts pouring rain. A tree branch falls on his tent, and he gets to that point of where you find the I am soul.
Mm.
And just to keep it real, he's not feeling that great right now. So, what's happening? I mean, to me, either that's happening or you're finding some bit of fluidity and balance while functioning, which is easier said than done because it's vital that you have inspiration in that functioning. And I don't see any in between. It's not about right or wrong. It's not about it's just about pursuing something new and unknown versus pursuing the same old fucking bullshit. Because it's all
Yeah.
the same bullshit, no matter what the story is. In the end, it's the same fucking thing. Sorry, but
No, no.
you
I mean,
know,
you're you're totally true, and I've got a really stark demonstration of what you're saying today because I made a mistake today, just a simple little mistake,
wow.
but it caused me hours of anguish. It's I mean it's sort of, I've got this nice little life here in a town on the coast. It's lovely, very simple. I do my work. There are not many things that disturb me too much here in this pleasant little life. I don't pay too much attention to I watch the news and all of this sort of stuff, but I don't get too dragged into it because I'm very aware that I have my work and that's my focus.
Right.
Um, but I have these neighbors
You have these neighbors.
who make a lot of noise. And they live above me. And so last night they were arguing late in the night. They wake up at 7 o'clock this morning and start arguing again. And they drive me absolutely fucking insane. Now I know that this is a really valuable tool for me. I've meditated on this. I've worked with this for a number of years now. It really helps me to go deeper. And the learning here is, if you're expecting the world to give you peace, you're not going to find it. The world is going crazier and crazier
Hmm.
every day. You have to find the peace within. The world is not going to give you peace. But this morning I lost it, and I just shouted, let rip a huge stream of my favorite choices swear words, insulted them roundly. And for 10 seconds after doing that, I felt really fucking good.
Yeah.
And immediately my energy crashed, and I knew I had stepped off the path of my intention. I had entered the fray. And it was such a shock to realize what I had done, in that I had dropped into that level of conflict. And it caused me hours of really deep distress, energetic stress, because it was as if I had shredded my own energy field just in one simple little act that, felt really good in the moment. And I felt really justified in doing it because these fuckers had been, arguing and, whatever.
Yeah, like a cheap orgasm.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it is totally, it's just like that, Years ago, it would have been another night out on the town using whatever drugs, whatever. It becomes more and more subtle, and the path becomes more and more narrow, and we have to we have to really walk our talk, in a sense. And this, I tripped myself up for not for long. It wasn't a huge crash, but it was enough to cause me hours of real uncomfortable, discomfort today. And it was a bit of a kick up the backside, just in terms of what is it you intend for your life,
Yes.
So it's either or. You've got to really focus on what's going on. And at the other end of the scale, I am experiencing more and more, extraordinary depths of peace all the time. I mean, extraordinary things. And Morgan, and the group that Morgan sets up is very much a part of that process. It's a lovely.
I agree.
Anybody listening, I can't recommend Morgan's work enough. She holds a really, really beautiful space, and her offerings are well worth exploring if you're looking for somewhere to open up. Really, it's a beautiful space. And on those calls, which we do once a week, you're usually there too. I have the most beautiful experiences, and it's great for me because I do a lot of space holding for others. It's lovely to be in a space where I'm being held and can just let go and go off and explore. And the things I'm experiencing there lead me into deeper and deeper states of peace, deeper and deeper realizations, like you had, where life tells you, do you realize exactly what you are?
Yeah.
Have you taken a look in this universal mirror here and found yourself? It's the same sort of thing in a different way, and it's beautiful. But then when I step off the path and shred myself, it's a real shock to think you can't go back to that anymore.
Yeah, the splintering. Yeah. We've all had that moment at least one time where you splinter.
Yeah.
And you're literally shattered. And I think maybe that's some evidence of, maybe that's some of the kick in the backside that you're talking about. It's not to be judged. It's just to be recognized. We don't have to linger when, like you said, you got through it, right? One of the things that happened to me last night is I laid down on the ground with purpose by my own volition, right? And because I'm connecting with her by her guidance, and she was like, "Hey, you remember this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm laying in her arms, and she says, "This is the end all. This is the beginningless beginning and the endless end. This is it." I'm like, "Yeah." And then I got this pain, this sharp pain, like somebody stuck a nail in the heel of my left foot, my feminine side. And she was like, "This is just a reminder. Go get him. Like, go get him, Tiger. This is just a reminder, though. I'm going to keep reminding you." And it was a beautiful, loving, painful, momentary, uncomfortable feeling. But yeah, there's a lot of really powerful things happening. And I think I just tell myself a lot, and I say it, go easy on yourself and go easy on each other. Because what we're reacting to is strictly programming. It doesn't matter who did it. There is no who. It's
Yeah.
just an external thing that is clogging up the avenues and the highways of love. That's it. It's, you know.
Yeah. The
So
day I had
did your neighbors confront you?
no, I've not seen them. They left, and I haven't seen them all day. But we have an ongoing issue. They
Mm.
promise soundproofing. It's not been delivered. It's an ongoing thing. And as I say, I always need something. There is always something that puts me in touch with my shadow. Otherwise, I could easily
Mm.
pretend to the world that I'm doing totally fine. And this is the stuff that I need to meet. I want to experience these deeper states of peace, and I want to live that. I don't want to
Yeah.
just touch into it. I want to truly live that. Um, and life is getting crazier by the minute. So we're not going to find it outside. We're going to need to be
Yeah.
able to hold our center, regardless of what life throws at us. And it's extraordinary. And since the solstice, I think there's another big shift. We turned another corner since the solstice, I think. And
I think we
the
turned another
energy,
corner. I think we turned another corner today, July 1st.
yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
maybe we did,
uh,
maybe
I
we
mean, I don't
did.
know. I haven't really been out there looking today, but from what little I've seen, it looks like things were jumping, even like in
Mm,
the southern hemisphere. On their when we were still on the 30th. One of the things I noticed, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there. It's not like this is how you live or anything. But one of the things I've noticed, or that in retrospect, I didn't notice it very quickly. It took me a while. But that is that to elevate your frequency just takes soft changes. Like instead of these hard, wholesale, absolute changes and declarations and beliefs and whatever boundaries and all these other things we throw out there telling ourselves that we're getting expanding when we're actually resisting and restricting. But they come from just these soft, to me, the feminine is leading, these soft changes. Like in
yeah,
the moment, in this moment, with this opportunity right now. Even like with yourself, doing that. We've all done that. And we can learn to do better and get past it, both in our opinions of others and ourselves. But you got through it really quick. And the way you treated yourself, I think, speaks a lot to what's happening collectively as we, as individuals, transform in the moment when we get dragged in.
yeah. I had a good illustration today because I took myself off to the beach and I lay in the sun, and then I went for a swim. And I was so this thing, nature is really, it's not that nature's coming alive. Nature has always been alive.
Yeah.
I think we've been very deadened
Yeah.
to nature. And as I lay on the beach today, I had this really beautiful impression of us as these waxwork figures that have accumulated another layer of waxy. We've created this edifice of ourselves that we've really believed wholeheartedly now. And now, as the sun intensifies, all of these waxy layers are melting away. And we're recognizing that all of life is just longing for a really loving, intimate experience with us.
Yeah.
Um, and we've separated ourselves out. And now we're dropping back into this glorious reality that is alive and longing for us to interact. And we've got this choice now. Do you want to do virtual reality or true reality?
Yeah.
And we're being seduced en masse into a virtual reality, into a state of transhumanism,
Yeah.
or we've got true reality coming alive in ourselves in every moment of the day. And we get to make that choice. But it's a scary choice because it really does mean you've got to let go of everything we've known and surrender to this grace, this extraordinary journey that we're all on. And it's beautiful, but nature is really very present. So when I went into the sea today, and I was still feeling my solar plexus was tight, I was feeling a bit shocked at what I'd done, the sea just welcomed me in and embraced me and washed my solar plexus for me. And I saw this density just leave my solar plexus, and the sea said, see, it's that easy. I
Mm-hmm.
can take it for you. and it it was done in seconds.
Yes.
So, all of these, lying on the earth is another of my favorite spiritual processes. In effect, it's a spiritual practice for me, because again, the earth does that, just moves energy into my system and opens me up and just dissolves patterns that I could work on for hours myself, and the earth just wipes it out.
Yep. Very true.
Yeah,
It's very
it's
true.
amazing.
Yeah, and then sometimes if I get too, to lay on the ground, I think is, there's a reason I've been called to do it for the last 4 nights. But there's something about the alignment that it brings in, like going back to those groups. One of the intriguing things about that, where you have a group that is open in their own field, their own collective field of energy. Obviously, they're there, but everything they're connected to is there too. And the reason that they're so interesting to me is because the way that the information comes to you isn't from anything that we've done before. It's all coming telepathically from this beehive intelligence that's created. And I've seen evidence of this even today. Someone in the group reaches out to me, sharing something with me. It was very powerful and compelling. It's all fitting together with other things. It's like there's something about the embodiment of consciously merging consciousnesses with 2 or more that has the same effect, I guess is what I'm trying to say, or similar, as to laying on the earth. It just does. It's like, I don't know, like somebody stuck a bunch of magnets on you and everything went back into alignment.
Yeah.
Back into their
it
proper
activates,
place.
doesn't it? It activates and speeds everything up, and we're pulled into a sharper focus, is what I feel. I can wander off in my own delusion a little bit if I spend too much time on my own, but when I'm with a group like that, you just get pulled into a stronger alignment, in a sense, and it's very powerful, very powerful.
Did I ask you before, do you think, regardless of what it looks like, how it actually happens in the physical, respect to the physical, do you think that we'll reach a point where everyone's snap brought up to the same level at the same time?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. Not in that way. It could do. It could, but that negates personal choice and free will, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. It's
Good point.
It's like we might all be in the same school, but there are lots and lots of different classes and years within that school, and we are eternal, so it doesn't matter if somebody does their awakening now or in the next 26,000 year cycle. To eternity, that doesn't really matter. But there are a field of us perhaps ready to do or move through awakening now, and there'll be a lot of people that aren't yet ready. That's my take on it. I don't think we're all going to be.
No, there's a lot. There's a lot of, that makes a lot of sense. And again, who knows how all this works?
Yeah.
Do you put people, when you have a session, is there hypnosis involved?
No.
Okay. So your session, energetically, you're basically merging with that person, would you say?
This is it emerging. What I'm doing is watching their field. I'm just gazing at their field, and a lot of energy moves through my field and through my gaze into their field. And that energy has nothing to do with my personality. It's the bigger part of me that has this extraordinary level of compassion that I get to bathe into when that's happening.
Wow.
And it understands what they're going through and what they've been through, and holds it all without judgment, and helps to dissolve things very smoothly and quickly.
Wow.
So it's lovely, and I don't do many of those sessions anymore because I've
Yeah.
been asked not to do,
Okay.
to hold a bigger field rather than
Right.
narrow. I
Right.
do some, but not many, just because guidance said, okay, move away from that for the moment and focus on holding the bigger picture.
Makes sense.
But it's the same process really, whether it's a group of 150 or one individual. That energy moves in exactly the same way, and it very much wants to be on the planet, helping us to know that we are it too. We are those levels of compassion and witnessing and deep acceptance and understanding, and in that space then everything can dissolve and return to formlessness in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But we tend to hold these issues and wounds very tightly and very, very dearly. We've been in love with them for a long
Well,
time,
they're
haven't we?
becoming a pain in the ass now. We
Yeah,
gotta
but I
we
think a
gotta.
lot of them are falling away so quickly now, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah, they are. But I mean, well, you know what I think it is. I think there's so few left. Like, how many cop outs can we have? How many doors are there to close before you
yeah,
get down to fear and victim consciousness or whatever you want to? I mean, it's only got one name.
yeah.
Wotifka, I think that's the book David Icke wrote. It's an ancient term for that negative, archonic type of nefarious, distorted energy.
Wettico,
Wetiko, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, my whatever language that is bad. But
That's a Native American term, and Wettico is what the Native
Wetiko,
Americans
yeah. It's
termed.
like the funk, Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we were all marinated in it, but I mean, I think there's enough clarity now that, and I guess because they're becoming more inflammatory, enhanced. That's why you're having, and maybe they don't last as long and all that stuff, but still, they get louder and louder. And people talked about this for a long time. They said when the time comes, your higher self is going to embarrass the hell out of you. It's going to be, but I think to get over the judgment of that and recognize it as the mechanics and science of an evolving human being and stop taking things personal, whether it's a personal relation or the world.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people have been talking about a lot, and I want to ask you this because you are a practitioner. I know you don't do as much now, but I guess you still do, like you said, with the group. So I haven't done a lot of it over the years, but one of the things, and I certainly did it when I came out, when somebody might come to you officially or unofficially, like in my history, and say, can you help me out? Can you, an energy session, whatever you want to call it. One of the things that happens is they want to tell their story, right? And it almost like it's, like if you came here for a session, can you just like be quiet, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but now that it's become so important for people to speak, I have a second take on that because I used to not have the patience for that, right? Because I'm like, hey, look, we all know what it is, but I think there must be some importance to telling the story, and even as a practitioner or a performer, if you want to look at me that way, or you practitioners, I mean, there's something about saying it out loud to yourself.
It's profound. I think
And I'm
that
just
giving
anyway.
voice to it.
I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but my question was, do you feel like the dynamic of telling that story has taken on a different kind of role? I mean, do you feel like it's important for someone to get to a point where they can be in a space and say, look, I need fucking help. Let me tell you my story. Like, to me, that's almost like the cure. It's what I'm feeling. I don't know. I'm just saying, is that new energy? Is that something you can relate to? I mean, has it ever changed? Am I crazy?
I think my experience of that is that it's always been that way. It's always been really because we're full of, we believe our stories, don't we? And as we unravel more and more of them, we recognize actually they're not as important as we once thought they were. Um, but while we still think they're really important, and while our stories have a grip on us, one of the ways of loosening that grip is to tell the story of the wounding or the pattern or the belief or whatever, and have that story witnessed by somebody that
Yeah.
doesn't judge,
Right.
so that in the non-judgmental space,
Yeah.
the construct of the story starts to loosen, and the teller of the story or the experiencer of the story starts to recognize, oh, maybe maybe I'm not as bound up in that story as I thought I was.
Well,
And I
we.
had I was just writing something about my mother the other day as an exercise,
Uh-huh.
and it really shocked me because as soon as I started to write, I got to see through the construct of her personality, which was an alcoholic mess, into the vast spaciousness of her loving self. And if I hadn't sat down to write this little exercise, I wouldn't have given that impression the time to come through fully. But because I was writing, it started to form it. And I realized it's like, oh my God, look, I'm present with her essence now rather than her really messy, wounded personality. And
Right.
that was a really lovely, lovely state for me to
Wow.
connect with the woman that was my mother, because her essence was gorgeous. It was beautiful, and that was healing for me. Maybe it was healing for her, I don't know, but it softened something for me, and that was because I was taking the time to write out some stuff about her. I wasn't speaking it to anybody else, but there's something also profound for me that happens in the writing, because
Internalizing.
yeah, yeah, and you start to unravel some of you give space to some of what has been held tightly locked inside, and as soon as we give space to something, then light starts to move in and you get a different perspective on it, I think.
Yeah, there's a
But
lot
I
of.
notice for me, then my story isn't as important as it once was.
Yes.
And that's taken a
But
while,
but if it's still, but if it, yeah, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, and there's a lot of little personal, uh, you know, spontaneous, fast, transformational moments like that. I think for people, and a lot of it is, I think, much of it is, if not all of it, rooted in the mother father. I had like a power drill when I was driving up here 20 hours, and it was the nighttime, and I was crossing the desert, and it was very dark. Uh,
I was watching some of your monologues to the camera as you were aiming to be in the coffee pot by 6 o'clock in the morning or
yeah,
something.
9 o'clock. I made it too.
9 o'clock.
I
Yeah.
made it. I didn't think I was, but I started going through this drill, and it was my father, and I said, instead of like breaking him down, I went, and because I'm on the road, so there was this cadence to it. Uh, I am my father. I am my father. I am my father. And I just kept repeating it in different, different resonances and in just different ways, and it was quite like expanding to the heart and then up into the throat. Like I'm even feeling it now talking about it. A physical sensation going right. And then I did it with my mother. I am my mother. I am my mother. Because I'm driving because I got all the time in the world. And it was a powerful experience. And I did it with a few people that I'd had some issues with, like say in the community or something where something became imbalanced. And it wasn't even there. So what I found was that with the mother father, there was still stuff there. And with the others, it seemed like it was a much clearer field. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of really deep stuff coming out. The deepest of the deep.
Yeah. 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 It really is falling. Well, it's coming to the surface very quickly, but it's falling away very quickly. It seems there is so much support now, I think, to move through this stuff, to let go of it. And that being said, I wouldn't want to be just awakening now. I wouldn't want to be, just coming to my senses, in a sense. That would seem quite daunting. And yet things are moving so much more quickly these days than 30 years ago when I first started this process. So
Well,
it's
evidently there's a lot of
well,
people waking up right now. For
yeah.
everyone I'm talking to, of course, a lot of practitioners. I'm here in Sedona. I heard this man. I won't get into the story, but I heard this man talking to these three people. He was about 70 years old. You could tell they were wealthy, and I guess he just woke up because all he was talking to them about was Carl Schwab and the Bilderberg Group and the vaccine. I mean, and I was like, whoa. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people, and you're right on that other question about it all happening at once. And it's not a right or wrong thing, because I know some people have gotten the premonition or the vision or the lucid dream that it all happens at once. The language, the true universal language where all multidimensionality is ears are on, we're not even close to understanding the multiplicity of the message itself, or one word that the universe is speaking to us through the third eye or whatever. I think, for me, it's all about feeling now, because we're able to feel so deep and to actually go there and find that heart space. I mean, I had the pleasure of sitting in a studio over here in a studio session with the headphones and the whole nine yards. I've never done anything like that with these two incredible brothers, these musicians. And I was so fucking scared, dude. I was so scared. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't plan on anything. I didn't have an idea. I had no idea. And then intuitively I just pulled up something to read. But what I did as a soul, as a human being, was I went to a place of boldness and genius and love and compassion and courage, and I want to go back. I'm still feeling it now, but I feel like this is what we've come to. No matter what it is, forget all the excuses, forget all the stories. Let's bring our hearts in, and that's what those groups, I think, are tapping into, if you wanted to generalize it. And I think, at least from what I've seen, the level of consciousness of the people that participate, knowing what's really happening, either doesn't come or doesn't come for days. And you go, whoa. Or, you know what I mean? It's not of the linear world, because it's not just light and love, it's information, which can, in this climate, can rapidly change the experience of your life through the conscientiousness of honoring and being in integrity with what you see in yourself, which basically means stop looking at other people, because this is the gold.
Yeah.
The
And
heart.
in spaces like that, in energetic spaces like that, I'm aware that I get presented with a tiny, tiny fraction of what is actually going on,
Yeah.
enough to keep my mind happy and to give me something to talk about, as it were, or write down or whatever. But there's a vast amount going on that I have, no awareness of at all. And that's always the case, isn't it? I've read somewhere that our cells are processing maybe thousands of pieces of information in any one second.
Yeah, I think it's like billions. I think it's billions.
Maybe. And we filter out, most of that out because we couldn't cope. We just keep a tiny portion of that. And I think our capacity to perceive that is expanding all the time, but it wouldn't serve any purpose to be aware of it all, would it? It would send us mad, perhaps. But
have you had this? And I'm not. I know because I missed some of the groups with the traveling and the time thing. But it happened to Morgan and I 3 weeks ago or something. I remember, and I know there was a group around it. And I can't remember everything, but it was, and we were talking about it a couple of days ago on the show. But the chakras becoming a column of just pure creative light energy, life force energy, and then also the perpendicular, kind of like around the shoulders, this band. It's like the Christ consciousness. I guess would be another way to put it. But like that, we have, we have gotten to this point where there's kind of this full, clear communication stream that we're tapped into, all out, in all ways, and like everything else. I think that's kind of what you're talking about. Is the human's always the last to know, like figure out, oh, this is happening. Because I got a vision I think the first full day that I was here, it was a whole day of just watching things third eye and experiencing things. And I've said, like, you're receiving it and it's happening at the same time. And the message was, can you see everything's converging? Everything is actually coming together if you just step back and just watch it. And I was like, wow. It wasn't like a let go or be dragged thing. It was more like just chill out a little bit and just watch it. No matter what happens, just step back from the fray, and just look at it, and you can see everything is going. And just keep, have to look every now and then. Being a human being's not been an easy deal.
It's getting easier though, no? Do you not think it? Like, I'm finding things getting smoother. I trip myself up, from time to time, like I did today. But for the most part, things are moving. There was a rough patch a couple of months ago or something, but when a lot of really deep shadow stuff was coming to the surface. But for the most part now, it seems like things are smoothing itself out, and it's as the clutter falls away, as more and more of these layers fall away, it just becomes simpler.
Yeah.
More and more simple, I think.
Yeah.
And what I'm aware of with these groups with Morgan, I'm having a series of experiences that it took me a while to realize, there's a deep underlying theme going on here. And it started right, I don't know how many I've done now, maybe 8 I've participated in so far. And I think it started right at the beginning, where I experienced myself as one of those big stone statues on Easter Island. And I was the consciousness of that statue, feeling the incoming light of the stars that they ground. But I was aware of this really still, impassive nature that had stood there for thousands of years, just doing that one job of grounding vast amounts of starlight for the planet. And I was in that space. And then it shifted to those big granite Egyptian statues that do the same. And I knew that people knew how to tune those statues, knew how to tune stones to particular frequencies, so that that would become their purpose. Wow. And then it happened again on Wednesday, where I felt myself as a crystal deep in the earth, doing the same thing, anchoring the energy of whatever it was, amethyst or rose quartz, or feeling that these extraordinary beings had volunteered to be on the earth to ground this set of frequencies in the planet, in a beautiful, beautiful way. And then that shifted into being the pharaoh in the sarcophagus, dead, in the tomb, and the whole tomb, because it was full of ritual and ceremony and prayer, did the same for thousands of years. The consciousness of the pharaoh, or the body of the pharaoh, was holding those frequencies in, with all of the gold and the granite sarcophagus, anchoring frequencies in the earth in a way that we don't really appreciate. And I'm having these experiences over and over again at the moment, of this sort of deep level of timeless. It's a timeless quality. That's it. It's timelessness, anchoring these frequencies for thousands and thousands of years.
And here's the rub. Here's the trick. Because you can explain it so many different ways, but like, it's fascinating because I know you, Morgan. There are some people on this earth that are certainly doing the whole. You don't come down here and it's not a personal journey. It's all, but there's some that do. They're specialists, and some people anchor in stuff or transmute stuff or transform stuff, and it's a very collective team. They're part of a collective team. And I just think about We're the technology. We're like the spacesuit, and all of the controls are running through us.
Yeah.
We're like the battering ram. We're like the Marine on the ground. I mean, and that's the human part, which is such a flip because all of that is us, and the coordination of the coordination and the voice, therefore the power of that sentient extension. That's where that balance and that flow that I think is kind of visualized by the chakras becoming one fluid channel. That this is the real thing. Like this is here, and let's not even talk about. Do you think we're all going? Now this is me telling me. Do you think it's all going to happen at the same time, or how's it going? And just instead of that, do what you talked about at the top of the show, which is taking the same approach and intention of just total presence as you lay on the earth. We can find this energy that we're seeing that's being transferred or communicated to us through groups, through meditations, through visions. We're seeing this channel, this horizontal and vertical connecting, this place where you have the sharpest angles, 90 degrees. They say that is the hardest place to find union. But it is also the best place. So now you got a place where there's four sharp angles. I mean, this is to me, this is what I feel like we're in is something where what's going to happen, but what can we do now, and how can we do it if we're not taking the time to get to know it, which is another thing about the groups because it doesn't follow a protocol, kind of like Soulogy Fest. We're making it up as we go. Just check the website every day. We'll add people's names on it. I mean,
and you
know what I mean?
Totally need to give space and time for this stuff to unfold, deep inside. And then not so long ago, it was made really clear to me that we're in a time now where those ancient gifts that we have utilized in other worlds and other dimensions and other lifetimes are starting to really become available. They're going to come back online. And it takes a while for that to settle in and for us to even realize we're doing it. But I think these experiences I've been having of this vast, timeless streams of consciousness. Well, years ago, the first time I went to visit one of the big stone circles in this country, I was guided to walk around and sing to each of the stones. And as I was doing this, I lost the personality of David and became a druid, an ancient druid. And as I was doing this, I recognized the stones as a personality, each one of them different. And I knew that I had done this in another lifetime to tune these stones for ceremony. And it's like, we do this. We know how to do this. I've seen you say this often, we've got this shift. We do know what we're doing here. We might not be as conscious of it as we could be or as we will be. But all of the technology, all of the understanding is there, present in our field, and it's starting to really emerge. It's starting to come alive. And we do it in groups. We've got this amazing technology that allows us to connect all over the planet in ways that we couldn't ever before.
It's like the internet, if you think about it. God, it's so fascinating. So fascinating. To look at the mechanics of it, but it because it's such a human thing, and feeling is such. It's like the place. It's like the core, the feelings. Truly getting that, like what I was talking about earlier, what is, how do we enhance that? Like, I mean, what's the goal? And to me, it's getting that connection to the point where it's real time all the time, like that space between conscious and intuitive, just like this, but between breaths. And it does, because it's not like, I thought for a long time, I'm going to start hearing, a louder voice or more clear guidance. But what I'm realizing, the way it speaks to you is by what unfolds in front of you. See, and so like, and this is just very. I'm talking this past month, June. I would say that's starting to land with me, and certainly now. But I'm still fidgety, electricity run through my body. I don't have normal sleep patterns. But it's so hard to explain. You can feel you're in the transition, and I don't know. I feel like it's just I'm trying to get to know it by just shutting up and just feeling it and watching it, kind of thing.
Yeah, just being present with it is the best way, I think, isn't it? I mean, the last time we were together on one of these, we got cut off. I think my internet went down or whatever. I don't know if you remember, but I'd been told about this solar unveiling that was happening.
Okay.
So there was one a month ago, and I was told the next one would be the solstice. And it's, there's been a lot of talk about the solar flash and all this, but this was explained to me as an unveiling. It's like veils get pulled out of the solar system so that everything becomes a bit more brighter, a bit more immediate, a bit more available. We get unveiled, the sun gets unveiled, so there's more energy coming from the sun. Everything comes online to another degree. So we've just been through one now around the period of the solstice. It wasn't at the moment of the solstice, it has started days before, and it's perhaps still going on, but there's been a decided shift where everything is up leveled and everything is a bit brighter and more immediate. Yeah. Now, what I've been told is there's another big one, a much bigger one coming at the end of summer, maybe the equinox. I'm not sure.
The end of summer.
Yeah. So it's
that makes sense.
We get
right when we're doing Soulogy Fest. That makes sense.
Yeah, and we get a time to acclimatize to the new energetic world,
you mean
the new energetic reality.
We get time to acclimatize before the end of summer, or is that what you're talking about?
Because we've just been through one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Uh-oh, what happened? You went silent. Every time we get to the hour, something happens. What's going on here? No, we can't hear you. But it doesn't matter. We're getting the message. You gotta love it. But that's perfect.
Okay. Me now?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, talk. Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, this is a perfect example, though. Like, I'm sitting here saying, yeah, but we can hear you and just making fun with it. But this is what I'm talking about. I'm being with the energy. I'm not trying to say this is the way to go live your life, people. What I'm trying to say is, it's such a, it was so many things going on that I finally went, wait a minute, what exactly am I standing in here? Like, what exactly is different than, because these have been marked differences. I think this unveiling you're talking about makes a lot of sense to me. And then acclimating with it, that makes sense to me, because if we get at any time soon what we just got and it's much bigger, you're saying it's much bigger, right?
This is just what I've been told. That we
would you say it's very confronting energy?
If you've got a lot of shit that needs confronting, because it just brings it all to the surface. It's like a big influx of light all at once. Right. So you get to see everything much, much more clearly.
Yeah.
And if, that might be, you get to see your vastness much more clearly, as you were demonstrated last night or whatever, or it might be you get to see your shit and your illusions much more clearly, as happened with me this morning.
Or both.
Yeah, or both. And it's
I have felt an intense nurturing energy that I don't know where I would attribute it all. I mean, I'm in Sedona. I feel the maternal energy, but I got to believe it's bigger than that. Like, I mean, I've got to believe that, I don't know, it's a very familiar sensation or feeling, but there's some type of power coming from it that's actually going to come, I feel like, from the individual, or from me, and this is my case, that, people say we're all going to have to step up, or whatever the case is, or speak up. I think that's that type of energy. Like, it takes full participation. And you can't participate in the human arena, no matter what stage of the ascension we're at, without taking a proverbial risk, basically. You know,
It feels
embarrassing.
like a risk, doesn't it, initially? But I don't think
Mhm.
the stepping up necessarily means we've got to, you know, we've got to go after the 1% or the elite
Oh
or
no,
whatever.
no, no,
We've
no, no,
just got to start, and that's what a lot of people have in their mind, that that's
yeah,
what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to open up my own YouTube channel. I'm going to have to start writing a book. It's the stepping up is stepping into your true frequency
yeah,
and
yeah.
living and grounding that. And I'm having an experience similar to you then, or it sounds a bit similar, in that I feel like I'm cradled by my higher self all the time, that I'm
Yeah.
held by it all the time. And this thing of always thinking that you said that the voice would get louder or whatever, we want our guidance to be special. We want a handwritten scroll from a guardian angel to
Burning
land on the
bush.
doormat with the day's instructions for that day. And it doesn't happen. But it, like today, I became aware, it's like every time I look out the window, the hedge was asking to be trimmed. And I thought, oh, fuck that. I can't be bothered to do that. I'm too busy. I'm not doing that.
Mm.
Today, I was standing by the hedge and I could feel it saying, I want to be cut. I want you to trim me. So I got and I did it by hand. I got an electric trimmers, but I thought I won't use those. I'll just get the hand shears. It'll be easy. And as I started doing this, it became just a very simple but really beautiful meditation with the hedge. And the hedge was telling me, okay, so there are 5 or 6 different plants growing together in this hedge, but as a hedge, we form one consciousness.
Wow.
But we're all, lots of different plants here, a sycamore tree, a hawthorn tree, privet, ivy, bay trees. And yet, so they were all individual in their identity, and yet they formed this one unified field that wanted to be trimmed. It wanted, as a hedge, it wanted to make the statement of I'm a hedge, not this woolly mess that it was looking like. And I was
Yeah.
really touched because it was such a beautiful, simple little experience. And the hedge has been calling me for days every time I look out the window. And it's like, no, I want to. So it was pinging my awareness. It wasn't like I was getting guidance, feeling or receiving words from the hedge. It was just that awareness of, oh, that hedge needs trimming. And then I push it out of my mind because it's like, oh, I haven't got time or I can't be bothered to do that today. And when I do it, it was just a beautiful, beautiful little gift. And it's like doing what is right in front of you, as you say. That's the guidance. The next
Yeah.
thing that's right
Yeah.
in front of you, the next thing that's slapping you in the face to say, do this, that's
Yeah.
the guidance. And sometimes the guidance does come as words in a meditation.
Yeah.
Or
Of course. Yeah. I'm just noticing that like the language is. I mean, my time here in Sedona this week is a perfect example. Does it continue? I feel like that all of us have hit levels like you were talking about earlier, and you've talked about it before. I mean, with all the BS and all the other stuff, there's still these pockets of flashes of inspiration and alignment and all that stuff, right? But I do believe we're sustaining them. We're certainly capable of sustaining them longer and longer and longer, and even in perpetuity. Maybe that is 5D plus, but it takes a conscious, honest, sometimes brutal conversation with yourself.
Mm.
And that's a very dark road. And that seems to be all over the place. Some of us have come from years, and not me, but and then some had instantaneous traumas, and some have newly awoken. And, there's all these different, experiences. But the bottom line is, it's the big boogie monster. That it's shadow to me is an understatement. This is a monster that we're taming. The monster that the child is being seen as. I was totally blown away by Nicola Farmer coming on here 2 days ago, talking about the golden child or the inner child has never been hurt. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. What happened to all of the, But it made sense because we've never perceived it any other way. So if we're in a quantum reality and we were unconscious of that, now we're conscious of it, our thoughts, we know our thoughts are what creates. So we all this time we're hunting for a traumatic, hurt inner child who's really a fucking, creative monster, manifester, androgynous child of these two beautiful, this mother and the father. We're not looking at him for what it is. And now we can, because this is the energy that is alive and well in those groups and in other places where you have two or more that gather, just like this right now. This is all inspiration to me in real time. Like, ask me what we talked about in 10 minutes when the show's over. I won't be able to tell you, but I can carry the energy with me, right? It's all different now.
No, I'm totally the same. It's like in the moment, it feels really majestic and amazing and true and right. And 5 minutes later, it's gone completely. And I have no idea what I've done on a teleconference on a Sunday night. No idea at all. And it's the same when I'm writing a newsletter. It happens in the moment and it happens very quickly. And then I have to go back and look at what I wrote 2 hours later because I have no idea what I'm meant to be doing on the teleconference.
Right.
And it's lovely, but I think that's called living in the moment, or that's an aspect of living in the moment.
I found since I knew when I got on the road, I had to start documenting, because Soulogy's the growth, the growth spurts of Soulogy have always been. Anyway, I was just told you need to broadcast. You need to broadcast as much as possible. So, what I noticed though is the connectivity, the symmetry of one thing into the next. Both what Morgan, felt into and scheduled, what occurred, and how it all is kind of like flowing, like this big wave flowing that has all these different attributes. I mean, it's amazing to me. And again, we just hit July 1st. June 1st, there was like somebody, shot a revolver in the air and said start, right? I mean, it was like boom. And it seems like it started this way too. So you're saying that what was it, the middle of this month? You were saying something about the middle of this month, but then also at the end of the summer, there's another unveiling?
I'm saying the second of these solar unveilings was the solstice, and that period around there, which we're still settling from. It's like we stepped up a grade through that. There was a lot of unveiling happened personally, and at the level of the sun. I mean, the sun's energy is just extraordinary at the moment.
Yeah.
But what is being unveiled then for me is this very beautiful, intimate, soft relationship with nature, more and more. Now, what I was told 2 months ago was that there will be another much bigger unveiling at the end of the summer. I think perhaps it's the September equinox, but I'm not sure about that. But it's like, if you think there was a veil over the sun, and these are being progressively thinned out so that there's more and more and more energy pulsating through the whole of the solar system, then there'll be a big one of those, I think, in September.
Well,
and we're always in preparation.
9 is completion. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
We're always in preparation mode,
Man, I'm tired. I'm tired of preparation. I'm done with the preparation. It's just moment by moment. And my homeboy came by a minute ago and talking about being in the tent and the branch fell on it and the storm came and I said, well, it's been day by day for a long time for a lot of us, and to me it's moment by moment now. And I don't mean that in any way, any slight of anything in life. I just mean that I want to be at my best in every moment to the best of my abilities. And that's seems, like, I don't know. That if it's good, you're going to feel it either way. So I'd rather be in forward motion. Movement seems really important. Movement energetically, movement artistically, movement just whatever. I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop and like, it's moving too fast.
There is no stopping it, is it?
Yeah,
It's like
like
a very fast flowing river. It's like
yeah.
like getting on a paddleboard in the Grand Canyon, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
quite
right.
good.
Like a tugboat, like a
Yeah.
little kid's tugboat in the
I was in
rapids.
Sedona for 6 weeks.
When?
When was this now? 2004,
Oh
maybe.
God, a long time ago. You've
Long
been
time
in the
ago.
game a long time.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I went there with my partner at the time, and we were going to be there for 2 days. And as we'd hired this vehicle, and we had booked a little bed and breakfast just outside the town of Sedona, which is like a one strip town sort of thing, or it was.
Yeah, it
It seemed like
was.
a
I
strung
heard
out, it
about
seemed like a
that.
strung out town with crystal shops and lots of people advertising readings and stuff.
Mm.
And we pulled up at the bed and breakfast we were staying at, Heart's Home, that was called. Enocha Ryan, her name was. She was quite well known. And as soon as I stepped out of the vehicle and put my feet on the ground, it was like, oh, I'm not staying for two days here. I'm here for a chunk of time. And so my partner, he got back on the plane 2 days later and went back to Miami, and I stayed in that Airbnb, in that bed and breakfast place, working in the place. I got myself a job there, and so I worked on the land in the gardens. And she got me a tent, and I had a tent in the field behind the house, and I stayed there for 6 weeks and had the most amazing time there. There was a river, a very cold river that ran through the bottom of the property, and I would go there when I'd finished work and just lie on these hot rocks, and fall into the river when I got too hot, and the river was icy cold. And I knew that I was lying on these rocks for hours, and I was drawing memories back out of the landscape, Native American lifetimes. But again, it wasn't particularly conscious. I just knew that I was
Yeah,
drawing the energy back into my system, and
yeah.
it blew me away. I loved it. I loved it, and I went round, of course, all of the.
It's an extremely powerful. That's a powerful
Yeah,
story, by the way. Thank you for sharing it. But it is
it
an
was a great
extremely
time,
powerful.
lovely place.
Yeah, it's a powerful place. I have total respect for it. I was prepping for it on the way over, but I also felt this huge pull, like I've never felt. I felt, but I've never felt like this. It was just, and it never stopped. Once I got on the road after about 3 hours, I felt it. I knew what it was, and I just tried to stay present because I even got into this one section where it was raining and I was on a mountain and all these trucks were going by and a guy almost hit me. But I was told right before that, you're protected. You're protected. I mean, you're fine. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? And you can only drive like 40 miles an hour because it's dark and you can't see.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a powerful place. But this has been, I don't know. It feels really really good, as long as I keep moving. I feel like if I stop and start getting in my head in any way, it could have detrimental effects on me because of the place that I'm standing in. But no, it feels very good here, and I'm constantly in gratitude and expressing my gratitude. You know,
and you're holding a big field, so that needs a lot of balancing, I
yeah.
guess.
I
And
hope. I hope it comes. I've self-destructed many times on camera, but it's been a long time. Hey, brother, I'll see you later, man. It was good
Hey,
seeing
lovely to
you.
spend time with you.
It
Huh?
was good
You
seeing
take
you. I'll
care.
see you in the session next time and
Yeah.
meet you in the middle in our lion suits. That's how it was last
Okay. Lots of
time.
love. Yeah.